Stay with royal matters because this FBI file has revealed a potential IRA plot to assassinate the late Queen when she visited the United States 40 years ago, 1983. The online document appearing to outline intelligence given to federal agents about a threat to the late Queen's life while in San Francisco, an attempt perhaps to drop an object off the Golden Gate Bridge onto the Royal Yacht Britannia, or maybe a later attempt at the Yosemite National Park. Well, someone who was, of course, very active in those days is Michael Cole, who was the BBC royal correspondent at the time, first-hand experience of those days. Michael, did you get any inkling in those days that these threats were active as such?
Absolutely not. This visit, you may remember it, it rained relentlessly, even though it was California. I would have said that the most greatest danger to the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh at that time was probably Californian mudslides. But anyway, the FBI did get this one phone call from a man who, I don't know how determined an assassin he was, because he advertised, as you've just said, that he was going to drop something off the Golden Gate Bridge onto the Royal Yacht Britannia, or he would make an attempt on the Queen's life at Yosemite National Park. Well, neither happened. But the need for enhanced security, of course, it is one of the curses of the age. This is one thing we have to live with. And of course, Buckingham Palace lives with it. There's a special committee that looks at the security arrangements and requirements for any visit of a monarch anywhere. And at that time, one of the members of that committee was the Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. So he would have been well aware. If you remember, on that visit, the Queen made a speech, and because the lectern was so high, all you could see was her hat, and the newspapers had great games with it, saying it's the talking hat. So the next time she made a speech, which was to the cream of Hollywood royalty, the lectern had been arranged, the microphones were better, and she started off by saying, "Can you see me now?" And of course, it brought the house down with laughter. But of course, there are always these considerations, Mark, but the Queen, as far as I know, has never, ever changed her program or declined to go anywhere because of security considerations. I mean, that includes China and Russia. And in 1986, before the worst of the recent troubles began in 1968, in 1966, she was in Belfast, and a huge building block weighing nearly 9 pounds was dropped off a scaffolding and did a huge bit of damage to the royal car. There are always these dangers, but I remember Her Majesty going to Quebec. She never failed to go there, even at the time of enhanced Quebec nationalism and a wish for separation.
Yeah, we were just seeing pictures of the trip as you were speaking. And of course, President Reagan very much part of that sort of group shot, the photo with the Duke of Edinburgh as well. But we reflect, of course, that the president was shot. So therefore, I guess U.S. security was really anxious at the time. And as you say, bearing in mind the situation with the IRA. I mean, I gather this sort of conversation or this chatter was actually an undercover operation at one of the bars where people were sympathetic to the IRA.
Oh, yeah, there were plenty of those, plenty of them in Boston and Philadelphia, and places where there are large Irish communities. The Queen, of course, if you remember, she and the Duke went to the Reagans' ranch high up in the Sierras and spent some time there. As I say, it was a hugely successful visit. Of course, we didn't know about this undercurrent, but this phone call, if you think about it, the man said that his daughter had been killed in Belfast or in Northern Ireland by a rubber bullet, what we used to call a baton round. Well, I cannot recall a woman being killed by a baton round in Northern Ireland. In a way, that would be advertising himself, because not many women, if there were any, were killed, though he would be able to be traced quite easily. by that admission or by that intelligence. These things go on. I mean, we have to live with it all. The royal family lives with it all. There have been cases, and as you mentioned, Ronald Reagan was shot and badly injured and recovered triumphantly coming out of hospital. We all recall that very well. And he went on and he continued with his presidency and for a number of years afterwards. He was, in many ways, a very resilient character. And I think certainly Her Majesty the Queen always was. They have to face up to these things, but they are real threats. And in history, there's any number of royal assassinations, of course, including the one of Crown Prince Franz Ferdinand, which initiated the First World War. So these matters are taken seriously, but they are assessed properly, and decisions, informed decisions, are taken on whether to go or whether not to go.
As ever, Michael, thank you for taking us through those memories of 1983 and, of course, what we now know was going on behind the scenes.